come along on this week's Cowboy Up podcast with Dean Ruffing. Dean is the CEO of Hotels and the Best Destinations, and he's a combination of where's where and who's who. Dean gives us a little bit of education and what we call inside baseball, travel knowledge you're not necessarily going to learn anyplace else. Now, Dean and Russell have been friends for years. They've worked together, they've traveled together, and they take care of one another. And Dean takes care of White Stallion Ranch. We're looking forward to this little romp, and I think you're going to love what Dean has to say. With no further ado, here's Dean and Russell. Good morning, Russell. How are you?
Well, I'm good. It's October and it's still a little warm, and some people are wondering. It was really nice a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I know you get up around 105 to 110, and you think it's really nice, and everybody else is wandering around with their tongue wagging.
Yeah, I don't know about 110, but
well, you were happy the other day when it was 109. I mean, that's we're talking 1 degree away. I mean, come on.
Well, anyway, I don't love the heat that much, but it's time for it to go away.
It is time for it to go away because so many of the guests are returning to White Stallion, and it's just not anything that they necessarily budgeted for, I don't think. But that's okay. Okay.
It does get them. But anyway, today we have a very good friend, and he's not here because he's a friend. We have a lot of friends that aren't going to be on the podcast, but Dean,
I'm surprised I get to be here half the time.
Dean is my wife always describes him as the travel rock star. We travel to places like World Travel Market and IPW particularly, which is International Powwow. It's the biggest international travel show in the U.S. with Dean Ruffing, and he runs Best Hotels and Ranches in the West, represents hotels in great locations and dude ranches to the international market, which is really a variety of tour operators, wholesalers, which is somewhat redundant, and receptives, and he'll talk all about that and what he does. But traveling the world with Dean, we've gotten to know him, and we really rely on his marketing skills, his overall hospitality knowledge. And he's had a big role in shaping how we both operate and market our ranches. So, welcome, Dean.
Well, welcome. Good to see you. Good to hear from you guys.
I appreciate you taking the time, Dean. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. I'm back in the country, which makes it easy now.
Russell, the last time I saw a picture of Dean, he was in, I think, Egypt. Is that right, Dean? Egypt, and he was riding on one of these skis that comes out of the water. And all by itself, and it was just like, okay.
Yeah. So tell him, Dean, this is off topic, but tell him what you just got back from, you and Michelle.
So I am a kite surfer, which is basically a snowboard on the water with a kite. And a couple of years ago, a good friend of mine who worked for a kiteboard company out of Hood River said, "Hey, Dean, you got to go do this amazing experience on the Red Sea of Egypt." And so this is our second trip. We were on a 200-foot yacht for 10 days, kite surfing the Red Sea of Egypt, and it's also, from what I understand, I'm not a diver, but some of the top diving destinations in the world. So I'm either out chasing snow for skiing or chasing wind, one of the two.
And how many people were on the 200-foot yacht?
24 guests from around the world. None of them we knew, and except for the guy who puts the safari together, called a kite surfing safari, and then 14 employees, 7 for the kite surfing school and 7 for the yacht.
So it really is focused on the kite surfing stuff.
It's 100% focused on kite surfing. Michelle and I did. Michelle had never been to Cairo, so I took her to go see the pyramids and some of the museums. Next year we will go do the Valley of the Kings up in Luxor and then turn around and jump on the boat again.
So it's so good you're doing it again.
Oh, it's our third time.
And how hard? Because I kind of. I knew you before you kite surfed,
right.
A long time before you kite surfed, and because you were a surfer, and you did all this other stuff with the wakeboarding and all these things, and you were a professional water skier, right?
Way back? At one time, yeah, way back, yep.
Wow. And then, but this kite surfing's it's pretty hard to learn, right?
Yeah, it is. Once you learn to fly the kite, I grew up sailing. I've sailed, from San Francisco to Hawaii. I've raced sailboats, around the country. So I knew the sailing part of it was just to find the time to be committed to it. So it's like anything else, It's like, like rodeo. You've got to make the time commitment to do it. And so my kids were all grown up and on their own. I said, guys, it's Dad's turn. So
okay,
okay. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, so explain to everyone listening what kite surfing is, because it was.
Well, he did. He said it's.
No, man, just explain the basics of it, because it's just. I've seen pictures, but it's just hard for. It was hard for me to get my arms wrapped around it.
You know what snowboarding is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're on a snowboard, kind of a snowboard, but for the water, and you have a kite that flies in the air, and so the lower the wind, the bigger the kite. So if you have really strong winds, you fly a smaller kite, and the kite pulls you along. So you wear a harness, so there's no arm strength. Last year I did a 22 miler downwind, which for me that was unbelievable because I've never done it before.
Wow.
So it's in the Red Sea is all warm, 80-degree water. The water where we kite surf is waist deep. So it's not very, it's not deep, so you can stand up when you fall.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just go out and have fun doing it. It was actually in the Olympics this year too. If you, it'll be in Long Beach coming up in 2000. I think it's 28. So yeah.
Oh, so are you going to be in Long Beach doing this?
No, I'm a little too old for that.
So Dean, since you have to have different kites for different wind speeds, how many kites do you have to have and take with you?
So I don't take the kites with me because the boat provides it. But I have what we call a quiver of about 6 kites. My smallest is 7 meters. My largest is 15 meters. 15 meters is kind of like for winds between 15 and 18 miles an hour. And then as the wind picks up, they get smaller and smaller. So yeah. So I don't have saddles. I do actually have one. I have one you gave me, Russell.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you said now that your kids are older and they're out of the house, was this kind of on your bucket list?
No, it wasn't on my list at all. My daughter got into it when she lived in Michigan, and then so they gave me lessons for my birthday one year, and I grew up sailing. I taught windsurfing in college and stuff like that. So I had the background of the wind, and so now it's just kind of fun. So it's just I do it for fun. So. And
you're in a position where you can actually recommend this to certain people when it's in their best interest and it's something they want to do. You know exactly how to set them up.
Exactly right.
So Dean,
so anyway,
you've been all over the world, and we'll talk about what you actually do. But where would you tell somebody that they should go that isn't, everybody thinks, oh, well, I want to go to London or Paris or Venice. What's a surprising place that people who should go see?
Surprising?
Yeah.
Ireland. Ireland's one of my favorite. We all grew up in the area, Belfast and stuff like that, and the Protestants and all that. And now it's one country, so it's beautiful, and the Irish people are just wonderful. It's easy to get around. I love Ireland. I love Italy and Ireland are my 2 favorite countries I've been to. So, I love it. But I've been to Slovenia and Prague and all that kind of stuff too. So, but
I'm told Prague is spectacular.
I tell people if you haven't been out of the country, Ireland and Italy are my 2 favorite.
Why? What's because just they're pretty or?
Pretty, but people, Italy is, first of all, so old, and because there's so much history there, but just the people are wonderful, and the Italians love to travel too. So, they're willing to bend over backwards to help you out, point you in the right direction and stuff like that. I mean, the old days before we had cell phones and navigation systems, I'd go to AAA and pick up, the road atlas, and my buddy Mark Weekland, who was up in Jackson all the time, we would stop and take our flashlight and figure out where we were going.
I love it.
The Italians would always help us.
And I'm told the Irish like Americans because not everybody.
Oh, the Irish love Americans. Yeah, they love it. Yeah, they all love it. Yes. So yeah.
What about the Italians?
The Italians do too. It's I haven't been to a place in the world yet where they don't appreciate. They're always fascinated about Americans. They think they can fly into San Francisco and go to Disneyland the next day. They don't realize how big stuff is. Or the national parks. The national parks are their number one attraction. They love the national parks because there's nothing like that in the world that's so close,
Interesting. Now, you connect people with their bucket list.
So what I do is I work with people, people are always, we talk about ranch. People are always, talk about the American West. I mean, the old John Wayne movies, those still play in Europe. But when I was sitting in Cairo, there was some great Bonanza, the show Bonanza and John Wayne movies and so on. And so they're fascinated with the West. And the life of a cowboy or a cowwoman or just that whole thing. And I didn't grow up horseback riding. I grew up in Lake Tahoe. I'm a skier. I'm an outdoors person. So I didn't really grow up, around horses. The only horses I did, you put a quarter in the machine and it would go up and down. Until I met Russell, why would I ever go to a ranch? Because I'm not a horseback person. And so when I started, when Russell asked me to kind of help them out, and a couple other ranches told me to help them out, I looked at the ranch industry way different than a cowboy or a ranch owner, and so that's how I kind of got into it. And I come from more of the adventure travel side. I've sailed from San Francisco, Hawaii. I've cycled all over the country. I've skied all over the world. Now I kite surf all over the world. And so, what would attract me to a ranch? And so, as Russell will tell you, 15, 20 years ago, who would ever thought a mouse company would have a cruise ship? Whoever thought you could go out and rent a motorhome called Cruise America? Whoever thought you go out and rent a Harley Davidson without owning one? Eagle Rider. And so, how are we going to attract that kind of clientele? And so, it's a lot of the ranches about adventure travel, that's the huge market right now. That's what people are looking for. My kids would have never ever gone to a ranch, but now they go to it because there's other things to do. There's black powder shooting. There's archery. Some ranches have fly fishing. They have electric fat tire mountain bikes. They can go ride stuff. Yoga on a plateau. UTV tours, Jeep tours, zip lining. I mean, there's so much to do, and it's all outdoors, and that's what the next generation is looking at doing things outdoors as a family or as a group or as a couple.
So let's we go to kind of post-virus things have somewhat I guess the number of people that go to the travel shows, people are more selective, maybe go to fewer. That describes us. We basically go to IPW now, and we, meaning you bring others, you represent hotels, you represent shopping centers, and or they come along with us, and a real select group of ranches, including ours, and we go to IPW and just kind of describe IPW to people. I mean, it's not the biggest in the world, but it's the biggest in the U.S., and we do it very American. It's a bit different than World Travel Market or ITB, or describe it to.
Yeah. Well, IPW, actually, it's the largest inbound travel show in North America. It goes from city to city, and it's where international people can buy travel from the United States, more destination driven. So, and so give me an idea. The average European or Australian or anybody else around the world. Give you an idea. So in Germany, the day you start your job, you get 6 weeks vacation and you get 21 national holidays.
Wow.
So you have a lot of time off. And so they'll, if people are just flying from London to the East Coast, they'll just go for 7 days. But, for the West Coast, it's usually a 14 to 21 day itinerary. And so they work with we call them tour operators, not travel agents. So we work with tour operators. And the way I describe it is the consumer is looking for a holiday, whether it's a cruise holiday, whether it's a ranch holiday, whether it's a driving holiday or whatever. So normally what they've done in the past is they go to a travel agency, and the travel agency offers different packages. But the travel agency doesn't put that all together. They work with a tour operator. Okay, and the tour operator is the one that packages everything. The travel agency may book, the airfare, but if they're doing like what we call a fly drive for 14 days, The tour operator provides this to the travel agent, and it goes from there. The big difference is when you buy travel in Europe from a licensed or certified travel agency, it's guaranteed. So if something happens on the trip, let's say there's a construction at a hotel, or they move you from one hotel or another, there's insurance that covers those costs. And people don't know what the margins are. So to give you an idea, the tour operator, we give them a net rate of 20% off the hotel or ranch's retail rate. So what happens is the tour operator makes 10% to promote the program and put the package together, and then the travel agent makes 10%. So it's a very simple, seamless travel versus going on an OTA like an Expedia or Booking.com, because you got to buy your airfare separately, you got to buy your ranch separately, you got to buy your car separately, you got to buy your hot air balloon or attraction tickets separately. So when you buy from tour operators, it's one-stop shopping. And there's tour operators all around the world. There's based out of the UK, based out of Germany, based out of Italy, based out of France, based out of also the US. So IPW allows us to get in front of these tour operators, and so they're always looking for something new. And Russell, you've been through the last couple of years. I mean, our request for appointments has gone over it because people are looking for something different, and ranches, and guest ranches is one of them.
Right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and kind of define some of the other levels, because I think most people wouldn't really have any idea that there can be up to 3 intermediaries between the guest and the destination, and even maybe some others if you're mixing up a full itinerary. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Stephen, for another episode. Off to a great start, the Cowboy Up Podcast. My name is Stan Houston, Stan, the radio man, and I'm one of the founders and the one who helps with the distribution and production of this wonderful broadcast, Cowboy Up Podcast. I'm the leader of what we call the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network, and we're here to help save Western traditions and save Western civilization too. See if we can do that together. So think about that. And on this day, this is a high holy day for those of our friends who are in the Jewish tradition. This is Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, the days of awe, and Yom Kippur. And that means it's off to a fresh and new and hopefully powerful and better start in the Jewish New Year. And I kind of celebrate that with them. Great time to start the new year. And so we wish everybody all the best in the year ahead of us. One of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is that you think about, perhaps since you like to listen to radio programs about the West, I bet you could be somebody who could be a guest, or you know somebody who could help us, or in effect, maybe you're the one who has the story that really needs telling, and we'd like to hear from you. And perhaps we can help you. Now you can reach out to me personally, okay? Stan Houston, StanHustad, Stan Houston at gmail.com, Stan Houston at gmail.com, or you can reach our friends at the Cowboy Up Podcast at gmail.com, the Cowboy Up Podcast at gmail.com. We'd love to hear your comments, your suggestions. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of coaching on how we can do better. We're always cowboy ready to correct our ways from time to time. That's the mark of the cowboy style. So here we go. I'm Stan Houston, and I wish you all the best. And let's go back to the program.
So, Dean, let's, you and before you be a blackledge, and lots of people over the years have taught me, pretty simple stuff, but, you had to keep going over it with me. But most people don't know OTA stands for Online Travel Agency, and the two big ones are Expedia and Booking.com. IPW, International Powwow, how many people were there last year? And kind of, I mean, this is a big darn deal. It kind of give people an idea of what we get to experience and what all these buyers from around the world get to experience.
Well, and so it attends probably between 5,000 and 7,000, 8,000 people, depending on the year and location. And they're also it's U.S. destinations promoting their destination, or for like us promoting ranch vacations, or for me, the hotel stuff side is because I come from a Best Western background, so I've had an office in London, one in Milan, one in Frankfurt, been to Tokyo a bunch of times. And what happens is the reason why the Europeans and the Asians love to come to North America, once they land, they put their passport away and they can drive anywhere. So they can drive from New York to California, from Chicago to Florida, from Texas to the Northwest, and they don't have to worry about crossing borders. Like when I go from Milan and I got to go to Belgium for a trade show, I got to drive through a couple countries and I got to pay a fee to get through that country. So the same currency, the same language, same everything. So that's why it's so free to travel around. People don't realize how cheap it is to travel in the United States versus traveling in Europe. And so these countries come over, and based on visas and all that kind of stuff, and that's what the U.S. Travel Association helps us out with. And so people can fly in, go to Florida for a week, direct flights from Europe. They can come to Chicago, New York, Seattle, Salt Lake City with Delta is a huge international hub. So they can fly in and then travel freely. And that's why, our gas is cheap compared to around the world. Our food is very inexpensive around the world. And they don't have to worry about anything, really.
But we were in LA last year for IPW. What was it, May or something?
May. Yep,
so it was this year, really. But and we stayed with your friend Peter.
Right, Peter Fong. Yep.
At what's the name?
It's the Aiden Hotel, the new Best Western brand, the Aiden Hotel in Chinatown. Yep.
Right. But what? Let's see. What they had Universal shut down and exclusive.
Universal Studios shut down. They had the Coliseum shut down for private stuff.
Just for our group, right? For the 5,000 to 8,000,
yes,
it was a big show, so it was probably 7,000 or 8,000, right? And they got food and drink and entertainment, and they transfer you back and forth. I mean, Disney other years we've been in the Denver Stadium. I mean, they really
Washington D.C. Yeah. Your wife got to go down on the national baseball field. She's never been on one, so with the cowboy boots.
Nice. Yeah. And so I mean, they really roll it out, right? I mean, it is showing America, and it's big.
It's if you remember San Antonio, I've been really spending time in San Antonio. In San Antonio, they're trying to sell the destination, and that's what cities do, or states do, is they sell the destination. Why would you want to go to San Antonio? I'll tell you, I was blown away with what San Antonio did. It changed my whole outlook on San Antonio.
Me too. My new favorite city in America. I mean that.
Really?
And oh my God, everything. I could go on. And they did a brilliant job. They knocked it out of the park. I mean, so much better than L.A., but, it was starting with better material to begin with. But, I mean, my goodness.
Well, next year is Chicago. This next June, we're in Chicago. So they'll hit it out of the park,
Yeah. So go ahead.
And so what IPW gives us a chance to do is to meet with companies who have really thought about doing, I call it adventure vacation. And that really what is the ranching industry, what ranch is. It's adventure vacation. So these people are not, I'm not going to say very few, but they're looking to come to the United States for 14 to 21 days. And now they also want to have a ranch experience in that stay. So they may be flying into Phoenix, may come out to stay at White Stallion, or they may be flying into Denver and staying at Sylvandale, or flying into Billings or Bozeman, and then, going out to the Hideout. So they'll do that for a couple of days. Then they go on to the next location. So like the ranches in Cody, Wyoming, they're going there for the Yellowstone experience. But now instead of staying in a hotel, they get to go experience a ranch outside Yellowstone. So again, really for me is to find new types of business for the ranches. And, you know, now the ranches have all these other activities. There's more things for everybody to do. And it's just like, you look at White Stallion, it's changed your Sunday. Remember, Sunday was a dead day because everybody checked out. There was no riding, there was no activities, and now it's one of your busiest days.
Right. Well, and of course, we'll pat you on the back. You know, my son and daughter-in-law, Stephen and Alice, were, you know, younger, more activity-oriented. They were pushing hard, and Laura and I were on board, and my brother he just saw, you know, he's the logistics guy. He's the guy who's got to make stuff happen. He just, you know, he saw more challenges, more logistical issues. And so you just met with him and said, hey, you want to be competitive, you're going to have to do this. And like everything, once Michael, you know, saw the way, he went in all the way. And now, of course, as you know, we do everything. We do three different types of shooting, 2 different types of archery, axe throwing, bikes, rock climbing. We do it all.
Well, the other part is, too, I tell a lot of ranchers. I remember up in Denver, you know, I took them to an REI, sporting goods store. People was like, well, REI, but what do? They do rock climbing, they do biking, they do hiking, they do skiing, they do camping, they do everything correct. That is our market, you know. And you look at the number of ranches that have glamping, you know, and that started years ago. And I have some ranches that, you know, that the glamping facilities sell out before the lodging facilities because people want that other experience. And there's some pretty expensive, high-end, you know, signature ranches out there that, you know, you look at Paws Up, you look at Brush Creek, you look at Ranch at Rock Creek, you look at, you know, so yeah, so it's
I mean,
it's definitely
you know Brush Creek really well, and for those who are listening who don't, Brush Creek is a 5+ star white lodging property outside Saratoga, Wyoming. It went from an ordinary dude ranch, you wouldn't know it from any other one really. And with a lot of money and a lot of knowledge, hospitality specific. A friend of ours now, Cal Ludicky, was the designer there. They become just a real game changer in dude ranching if you want that 5+ star experience. Do they have glamping?
Oh yeah, they have more. That's teepees. Yep.
Oh, huh. Interesting.
Yep. So yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, it's really, you know, it's the experience. And I mean, I always tell people, you know, that, you know, the horse poop smells all the same no matter what ranch you go to.
You would say
but it's a whole different experience.
And he does say that. And, you know, we go to these shows and we can't walk 100 yards without Dean being stopped 8 times. It's sometimes entertaining, sometimes frustrating.
You said he's kind of a rock star.
He is. My wife says he's the IPW rock star.
You show up with Dean, you're showing up with somebody.
Yeah, no. Well, they don't notice us.
The other part about, you know, Steve, you know, and I come from the hospitality, the hotel side. You know, when you go into a hotel in, like, let's say Miami, you walk into the hotel, you check in, you go to your room. You never see, you know, the same guest service agent again. You may see them, but you're not in contact with them. Whereas a ranch, and this is where, you know, guests from around the world have never experienced this, but when you're at a ranch, you walk into a ranch, whether it's Tanque Verde or it's Blackwater Creek or UXU Ranch or, you know, Stagecoach Ranch, you're dealing with the owner and the owner's family and stuff like that, and you see him all the time. You're riding with him, you're having coffee with him, you're having breakfast with him, you're having dinner with him, you're having activities with him, and so it's a whole different experience versus, you know, just checking into a hotel, going to have, you know, you may have dinner at the hotel. You may go to dinner downtown.
Right.
But you're not. It's a whole different experience.
Well, what I'm here and I get to interact with our guests, it's remarkable because it's so easy to be nice to them because they're so nice to everybody, and they came here to have an actual vacation. And it's so exciting. I mean, I met with a couple Saturday evening that had just flown in with their, I think, 14 or 15-month-old daughter from the UK, and they had been on the road for 22 and a half hours.
And about two two less than most people.
That's
fewer hours.
Okay. Well, I thought I couldn't imagine a 22.5-hour day with a 14 or 15-month-old, but they did. They were remarkably happy, and they couldn't wait to get their adventure here started. And then they let me know the other things that they were going to do. I think they're going to be in America for 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're starting it here, and it's their 5th or 6th year in a row they've been here.
Yeah, it's like Dean described.
And the other part is too the international market books months and months and months in advance. They're starting to book now for 2025.
Yeah.
The reason why is because they've got to make their plans. They've got to, they shop, the airfares, the packages, stuff like that. And the other thing too is in Europe, you can actually you can actually make payments on your vacation. So you can actually book through a travel company, and then you can make 25% down, and then make payments on it. So it's not all big at once. So and these people spend a lot of time doing research. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's really to find that the people who are looking for the ranch experience. But also who are also doing other stuff. I mean, the Grand Canyon. I mean, all the sites of the Grand Canyon, or Vegas, or all that's driving up and down from the West Coast, from Seattle down to California, or Seattle down to Idaho, and then Idaho down through. So it's a whole experience thing. They don't park themselves, in one spot for those 3 weeks. It's very rarely do they do, but they do. But mostly it's they want that Western experience. And Russell will tell you, there are people who go to ranches that will travel from ranch to ranch, and we don't even know it.
Right. Well, and I mean, we have people that have been to all 6 of ours, and getting ready for us to go find another ranch for them to go visit. Let's circle back to some inside baseball. So, if we're at a travel show or you're following up. I mean, you're following up with a variety of levels. You don't, with some exceptions, I imagine, deal with what we would call the retail travel agent, which is the person who either in today's day and age, maybe is going into the guest's home, helping them book their travel, or they have a storefront, or they're wherever they're located. They're the person who's dealing directly with the guest. Next up is tour operator, wholesaler. It's the same word. They're the folks who get they maybe don't get the contracts, but they put together an offering, and the retail agent buys it through them. And then next up is receptives. How would you define them?
Receptive, I also put them, so receptive, a lot of them are based in the United States. And they'll actually work with smaller tour operators because of the volume. So for example, let's use New World Travel. Okay, New World Travel is based in New York and Miami and LA. Their parent company is Myers and DER, but they also work with little companies too. Like for example, out of Germany, they may work with Arcus Reisen, which we know Derek very well, or Ruckzuck, or Zara Vacations. So they're the ones that are U.S. based, and so the smaller companies can work with the bigger companies to get the same kind of pricing, volume pricing. So, and it's also availability. I mean. So there's some smaller tour operators who I deal with that, I see 1 or 2 or 3 bookings a year. Is it worth for me to do that? Before it wasn't. Now, now we're seeing mergers. So for example, if you remember, we have Frontier Travel. Well, Frontier Travel now has absorbed Ranch Rider and American Roundup. And so they may buy, so let's say they're ranch specialists, but the guest also wants to go to New York and Chicago and Miami first. They're going to work with receptives to get product in the markets that their guests want to go to.
And so what you're saying, just to kind of color in the lines a little for anyone listening, is that these larger companies, some of these receptives are pretty big. Some, like America for you, maybe not as big. And they go out and get the contracts, which really means the rates, the net rates. So if the rate is $100 for simple math, they're going to get it for $80 typically, or maybe a little less. And, exactly. And they'll have that in their system. And then these smaller tour operators, they'll they'll just operate through that receptive. They won't get a direct contract with the destination, the property, and then they'll sell it to the retail agent, who then puts everything in final form together for the guest who's making possibly a complex trip.
Right, and it's all opaque, so no one knows. So when the guest checks in, it's all prepaid ahead of time. All the ranch or the hotel does is a credit card for incidental. So it's all a package deal. So it's all opaque. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about so as you know, there's Expedia and Booking.com. There's the two we call them OTAs, online travel agencies. And as you know, we met with them years and years ago, and we was kind of put a ranch as a round hole into a square box, which didn't work. But I always tell ranches to make sure, because really those two are the biggest in the world. Expedia owns Hotels.com. They own Expedia owns Hotels.com. They own a bunch of Orbitz, Travelocity. Yeah. They're all gone. So basically the two. But it costs a ranch nothing to get on the site, and their margins are about between 15 and 18%. But the reason I tell ranches to do it is because it gives you exposure. We can't put on there that can't put on the ranch that 5-year-olds need to wear a helmet, or there's 3 rides a day. So what guests will do is they'll pick a destination, especially for new guests. That's what we're looking for, is new guests. And so the new guests may go to Denver, or they may look at Loveland, Colorado, or they may look at Whitefish, Montana. And all of a sudden, the ranch pick pulls up, so they may say, hey, this is something new we've never done. We're going to go up to Glacier National Park. Let's do a ranch for a couple of days. Well, so there's a lot of things we can't on the OTAs you can't put in there, like there's 3 rides a day and blank, 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 and blank, blank, blank. But so what happens is now the guest will either Google, let's say the Bar W or April's Guest Ranch or whatever. And all of a sudden now they get more information. They usually will now book the ranch directly. I think your brother's a perfect example. He'll go on Expedia, look at a destination, then he'll contact the property directly.
Yeah.
So and it costs us nothing to do that.
That's his system.
Yeah. So it costs nothing to do it. So I tell ranchers, do it just for exposure, because it costs you nothing. You got to put one room in there, but if they book it, great. If not.
And one thing we haven't talked about, and it just hit me, I can't believe it. DudeRanches.com. You're right. The guy who runs there's sort of 3 families of commercial websites that represent Dude Ranches, and you operate DudeRanches.com. And
right.
that while the DRA, the Dude Ranchers Association, is terrific, and they vet everybody, and if you can, you should go there. One of the advantages, maybe, I guess, from a guest perspective, is DudeRanches.com and some of the others. They can have ranches in places like Georgia, the Southern Cross,
or Tennessee or Texas. I mean, yeah. And what's nice about DudeRanches.com, that's DudeRanchesES.com, is that guests can, and I get requests all the time. They're looking for a family reunion, or I just got an email the other day. The woman's retiring and she wants to spend a month. She grew up around horses, wants to spend a month at different ranches. So they can fill out whether they want glamping or fly fishing or rock climbing or cattle drives or all kinds of stuff. And so if they can filter what they want, and then I push it out to the ranches I know that has that. I've had when people say they want to go to a ranch in Wyoming during after New Year's, there's not a whole lot that are open, so I can push them, say, hey, there's some open, here's some that are open, but then you may look at the ranches like in Texas and Arizona that are open right now, during January, February, and March. So it does very, very well. We just redid the website, and our Google Analytics are going through the roof just because we do that. And again, I come from more the adventure travel side, so and I tell people it's a perfect example. Let's say Steven and I, Mom and Dad would take us to a ranch. We're brothers, and we grew up in, Chicago. Well, so once we become teenagers, we don't really want to hang out with Mom and Dad, so we don't really go on vacation. And then all of a sudden we go to college. Let's say Steve goes to college in New York, and I go to college in Idaho, at Boise State. And all of a sudden now we're in, we're in college for maybe 4 years. I think it's 5 to 6 years now if you're lucky. And then all of a sudden we get our first job out of college. Well, the first job, you get 2 weeks vacation. So you usually go back to mom and dad's house for Christmas. And then all of a sudden, then you got friends. And so all of a sudden now you get a partner in life and you get married. And you'll say your partner's never been on a horse, never been to a ranch. So not really top of the priority list, but they may go once. Mom and dad may take us as a couple, to a ranch. But then all of a sudden we have kids. And when kids are from 0 to about 6, we don't go on really any major vacations, especially if you have a group of kids. And I teach skiing. I teach a lot of kids, and I teach the moms who haven't skied in years because they've been raising kids. But now mom and dad are grandma and grandpa. So how do we grow the business? And that's why I said I look at more of the adventure traveler. I think we talked about a couple of years ago dealing with Best Bike was they ride around in Harley Davidsons. We did a ride a horse and ride a bike.
Yeah.
So really just thinking outside the box,
Well, you do that, and we've gone way over. So thanks as always. We'll see you soon. I'm not sure where, but we'll see you soon. And say hi to everybody. And thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for taking the time, Dean. I appreciate it.
No problem. If you have anybody has any questions, just give them my email address, and I'll be glad to follow up. So
perfect. And if Dude Rancher's listening, Dean is the guy to give you some free marketing advice, but because his main service is representing you to the international market, but you get all this other stuff included for what Dean does for you. So he's Dude Rancher's best friend. So thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Dean.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap, folks, from the White Stallion Ranch in Tucson, Arizona. And, of course, they're looking forward to you joining them this rest of the fall throughout the winter. Find a place where you can have a real cowboy experience for you and your family, a real adventure. And perhaps there's a possibility that you have a business team, a corporate get-together that you might want to plan something different this year. Not just the same old place doing the same old thing. Make it a real adventure. Well, we can help you do just that. So look us up at whitestallion.com, whitestallion.com, and through there and Russell True and the True Ranch Connection. If they can't find the right place for you, they have a connection to dude ranches all across America that can make it just perfect for you, your family, your business, whatever your situation. Hey, we're going out with a friend, Greg Hager. Now, let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a good guy, and right now he's on his way to Japan to do a series of cowboy music concerts throughout Japan. You see, the Japanese love cowboys because of the control that the U.S. government instituted until the 1970s, where the only outside media allowed in was U.S. allowed. Primarily Westerns and family values TV and radio singers, they were allowed. The Japanese loved it. They still do. The Japanese hold the cowboy on the same level as their samurai. Isn't that amazing? Everybody wants to be a cowboy. And Greg has a song which he says, I'll Come Back, a song that he first wrote in Japan. And he even sings it in Japanese, but we'll go out with his Western version. But maybe you want to check out the Japanese sometime too. Here we go. All the best and blessings to you. Happy trails to you. Happy New Year. Till next time, bye for now.
When I'm away, it always calls my name. Though it changes, somehow stays the same. Memories made here stay in my heart. Words cannot convey the depth, so let me start by saying one thing that is true. I know what what to do. I'll cherish every moment until it's gone. I'll see you again, though I don't know just when. So promise me you'll smile and sing my song, and I'll come back to you before too long. The way you welcome me feels just like home. Makes me question why I choose to roam. Home, they say, is where you keep your heart. Part of me is here, so let me start by saying one thing that is true. I know what to do. I'll cherish every moment until it's gone. I'll see you again, though I don't know just when. So promise me you'll smile and sing my song, and I'll come back to you before too long. One thing that is true, I know what to do. I'll cherish every moment until it's gone. I'll see you again, though I don't know just when. So promise me you'll smile and sing my song, and I'll come back to you before too long. I'll come back to you before too long.